Hey, what's up ladies and gents? Welcome to my review of eFootball 2023 version 2.1.0. Now I didn't hold back in my impressions of version 2, which certainly diminished the number of players playing the game, and for a good reason, because it was an absolute shambles. Now that 2.1.0 is upon us, you're probably going to wonder if it's better, worse, or just about the same. Well, in today's review, that's what we're going to cover. Passing is much the same. Level 1 is far too easy and accurate, meaning you can get passes off much quicker than level 2 and especially level 3. The difference between level 1 and level 3 passing is far too great and very noticeable in my opinion. It's about time they scrapped level 1 and level 2 passing assists and allowed a filter for those on level 4, i.e. the manual players, to play other manual players. Let's start off with the good aspects of 2.1.0. The first touch has noticeably improved, which is good because in version 2 it was downright awful. Far less random bad first touches, which leads to a slightly more enjoyable match, perhaps giving you the perception the game feels a little more fluid. The shorter passes appear to be a touch slower, which I'm not overly happy about, as this results in possession play styles where players come short for the ball at a bit of a disadvantage. It rewards the longer passes, which seem much quicker, which forces players to play that sort of typical meta that plagued PES 21, which I'm going to cover off more in a bit. No changes to the shooting and the stunning passes and shots. I would love them to go back to version 1 stunning shots because they looked and felt so good. What a distant memory that was. The recovery times for players being tackled are far too quick in this version, letting players who have just literally tackled your player to recover and challenge for the ball, especially because of the next point I'm going to make. The left stick movement and turning without sprinting is absolutely atrocious. Even the likes of Neymar take forever to turn 180 degrees. So imagine tackling someone and then turning away from that player, but due to the amount of time it takes them to turn, allows that player to get tackled to make the challenge and win the ball back. Heaven forbid you make a tackle running towards your own goal and you go to turn around to clear it, but they turn so slowly, the player you've just pinched the ball from pinches the ball off you and scores a cheap goal. Sprinting with the ball in this edition does not have a nice feel to it. Turning while sprinting will result in a very wide turning circle, and it's like being stuck on a train track, so sprinting needs to be kept to a minimum, but the secondary press and the team press is far too effective. It's hard not to sprint during a match because it feels so claustrophobic with no room to breathe on the ball, and the ever so clunky feeling of the controls makes for just a very frustrating experience. Player positioning doesn't get talked about enough in my opinion, and some styles, especially the possession style, it's absolutely shocking. I've already pointed out players moving close doesn't exactly help you, but deep defensive lines, defensive instructions set on the fullbacks with a 3 or 4 man strike force is definitely the meta, especially with level 1 passing cutting through midfields with one pass at ease. Again, very similar to PES 21 except far less controllable. So just imagine having no one nearby to pass to with really poor AI positioning, even with a 6-man midfield, forcing you to sprint until someone becomes available to pass to, but you're often closed down, giving this frantic feeling on top of the poor input responsiveness. This often results in possession being turned over quickly and often. So often I had to revert to playing a narrow 4-3-3 and 4-2-4 formations to sweat it out and play a similar style of getting it to my front three for the win. I hate playing like that, but to get the coins as quickly as possible, I must do what I must to get in and get out. The less minutes spent playing this game, the better, and I think that says a lot about where this game is right now. If you know me, then I love trying to use players as they are in real life, but the player ID is so severely lacking. Almost every player feels and plays the same way. There's no or very little difference between players, and that isn't rewarding, and it just forces me to jump on the sweat bus just to win. I did come up against one opponent who didn't use secondary press at all, which is the gameplay you're seeing right now, and it does actually look like a decent game of football being played in the right way and the right manner. I was actually criticised for being glad the secondary press was removed prior to the version 1 builds, because I think it would definitely help the game if the defending was far more manual. At the moment it's far too easy, And with dribbling nerfed to hell, it just feels like you're constantly wrestling and fighting with the controller just to get the ball forward progressively when you're in possession of the ball. The reaction to loose balls is still absolutely horrific. Players closest to the ball not being selected, and you're left frantically smashing the player select button and just praying it lands on the right player. So player selection overall is still very poor and dreadful when there's a loose ball pinging around, especially around 2 or 3 nearby players. Using the right analog stick player selection is still not as effective as it could be and definitely needs work. Skills feel slightly less responsive to controller input commands, and it's a far long way away from the version 1 builds where dribbling and skills was so much fun, so you have to predict a second or so ahead if the timing is going to be just right, rather than be reactive to the scenario you face against your opponent's nearby player. And with the dribbling being so poor right now, don't expect to score a Salah vs Manchester City goal anytime soon unless the player you're playing against is an absolute noob. The matchup button is so hit and miss again, making defenders and defending feel so random. I've seen 3 defenders leave the ball somehow to get through to a striker whilst I was holding down the matchup button, which normally would have intercepted the ball. Other times the ball will bounce off or deflect, and as I mentioned before, as soon as there's a loose ball, it's a complete lottery if the correct player is selected. Team press doesn't always apply pressing with the player who has the secondary player indicator above their head, which can leave you defensively exposed if the wrong player is called. Corners feel very difficult to stop from a defensive point of view and very easy to get onto from an attacking point of view. It doesn't always lead to a goal, but which is good, but the offensive side do tend to win more headers than the defending side. There appears to be a bug with the super cancel as well. It works for the most part, like 99% of the time, but there have been occasions, usually from goal kicks, where I've not been able to position or select and get hold of my centre back to get in front of their striker. The defender doesn't seem to respond to any of my input commands. It is very infrequent, but I've never had that before in a PES game, so I'm just going to put this down as a bug rather than an actual change to the actual gameplay. I have been able to get in front of defenders from crosses and stuff like this, so I don't think it's the major issue. Whilst the game is marginally less frustrating than version 2.0 with the improved first touch, defensive lapses and favouring the meta style of getting it to the front 3 or 4 as quickly as possible leads to drab, boring matches of sweatness that aren't fun to play or watch. Factor in the lack of responsiveness to the input commands and you're just left with another edition of a frustrating game where you're constantly at war with the controller. If Konami are interested in cracking the esports markets and it has to be enjoyable to watch, allowing players to bypass the midfield with one pass is ridiculous, and that's what you can do in this version. Since the changes to gameplay from version 1, I find myself visiting and watching far fewer streamers because you know what to expect from them for them to win matches. They just have to sweat it out. They have to just play long balls to the front 3, do 1-2s and try and score that way. And even then it's a complete lottery of getting your players to do what you want them to do, especially when you're trying to defend through balls and the matchup button not actually working or doing what it should do. So let me summarize how I feel about version 2.1.0 and the future, and talk about the future of eFootball 2023. It feels like one step forward and one step back from version 2. Fixing the terrible first touch was a must, and they have, but other issues have crept into the game. Super cancelling not working in some instances, the matchup being hit and miss, the poor player selection and overall responsiveness feels pretty bad. It just feels like a very clunky, frustrating game to play right now. I am still not enjoying the online aspect whatsoever, logging in, constantly sweating it out, retrieving the coins and getting out. I gave version 2 a 3 out of 10, and I think this is in the same place. If I was being super generous, maybe it's a 3.5 out of 10. I simply can't recommend it, and EA haven't patched FIFA 23 yet, which is so much fun in comparison. I've not enjoyed FIFA this much since FIFA 14. It's far from perfect, but I have found the correct sort of settings, difficulty and sliders which really work well for me and make it enjoyable to play and even stream whilst remaining challenging. As for the future of eFootball 2023, I'm not so sure. I thought I knew which direction Konami were heading in, trying to create a much slower paced game with a lot of simulation aspects merged in with fun, responsive gameplay, which I think we saw in version 1. But it's almost like they've done a 180 and are heading back to PES 21 gameplay, but just doing it in a really bad way with way worse ball physics, clunkier and less responsive controls. It's not in a place where I can really recommend it, and as a PES fan for the longest possible time, that really hurts. Like I said, I'll play it to get the coins, maybe open some packs if there's players worth getting and going for, but certainly nothing more than that. Anyway, that is pretty much it for this review, ladies and gents. I am disappointed to say it's still not in a place where I feel comfortable playing it and enjoying it. So yeah, most of my content for now is going to be FIFA based. It's mainly going to be streaming because I just cannot get into this game at all. Like I said, just going to play it, get the coins, get out, and that's where I'm at. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. Are you enjoying 2.1.0 more than version 2? Are you finding it more enjoyable with the sort of improved first touch? Are you seeing some of the issues that I'm talking about around Super Council and the matchup button? Let me know down in the comments. In some ways, the matchup button does work better in terms of when you get close to players. It's sort of fixed in that regard, and the collisions are slightly improved. But I find that actually trying to intercept passes using the matchup button is a bit of a lottery. And yeah, don't even get me started on the player selection. Let me know if you're having these same experiences as me, like I said, down in the comments, and I'd love to hear from you guys. Anyway, until next time, guys, thanks for watching this review. Take care. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.